We have breaking news. We have breaking news. Bernie Sanders' campaign has essentially put out his internal polling 50%. I'm sorry, 60%. If you remember initially when Bernie Sanders put out the polling, he put out 40%. This is what we have, internal polling 40%. Now, it's a caucus. So I would imagine you would have your volunteers at all of these places, especially if you think they may game it from you. Even if you don't necessarily are that cynical, you still may just take due diligence to make sure you have somebody there to record the results so you yourself know before anyone else knows. That's the way Joe Biden knew he was going to hit fourth place. So in this very specific case, Sanders comes out. The DNC says, we're going to put 50% of the results out at 5 o'clock. It is 4:56. Bernie Sanders walks out and puts 60% out. He's preempting what they're putting out. Again, the entire point of this is, if your numbers don't match up with my numbers, then we have a problem and it calls into question the issue. Now, Joe Biden has taken the position of saying the numbers are dodgy, which is astonishing because if Bernie Sanders was making that argument, and when he made that argument back in 2016, they wanted to have nothing to do with it. Oh, how dare you? How dare you? You're just a bitter loser. They're not going to say that about Joe Biden. Now, to be fair to Joe Biden, it gives him, I would say, it gives him just cause, right? But the catch is, nobody saw momentum for Joe Biden. It's very possible, like I said, that these numbers are accurate. The issue is the ambiguity with the way all of this kind of unfolded and the way this fell out. I got to be honest, I don't think Joe Biden has a leg to stand on, though. Let's take a look at this. So Bernie Sanders has addressed the press. First time he's come out to address the press since all of this is taking place. And as he's addressing the press, he calls in Jeff Weaver and allows Jeff Weaver to give the numbers to the various candidates. I'm going to give you those numbers now, and then I'm going to let you hear from them. In the first round, Bernie Sanders, 29.8, Buttigieg, 21.63, Elizabeth Warren, 19.51, Joe Biden, 12.27. That means he doesn't even qualify for delegates. And Klobuchar, 12.04. Yeah, that close. Second round, after the realignment, Bernie Sanders, 29.4. Buttigieg, 24.87. Warren, 20.65. Who was this? Biden, 12.92. Klobuchar, 11.18. That is a dismal, dismal effort for Joe Biden. In fact, Joe Biden is almost 10 points away from Warren, meaning not a fourth, a distant fourth for the guy who was the most electable. That doesn't look good. Now, what did I tell you was going to happen? The moment that Joe Biden started losing these states, questions of his electability will start to come to fruition. And again, that is the thing that he's living on. He's not living on policy. He's not living on good looks. He's not living on not having anger management issues. No, he's living on, I'm the guy that could beat Trump like a drum. If it comes into question where it doesn't even seem like you can, get Iowans to back that message or New Hampshireans. And I guess the issue here is going to be Nevada. Can Joe Biden have a strong showing in Nevada? If he can, maybe some of the chatter will go down. Now, if Joe Biden does have a strong showing in Nevada, then the issue becomes Bloomberg. Because if Bloomberg gets into the race in the way that he's talking about getting into the race, them two are just going to eat each other. We'll see. It's one thing if Joe Biden just flames out, in which case somebody else subsumes Joe Biden's role and accepts those votes. It's another thing when both are in the race and both are just pulling away from the other, meaning the same type of voter. I'm going to give you Sanders discussing the primary. And this was Ryan Grimm's video. Welcome to the Soapbox. I'm Mr. Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. This content is brought to you by you. So we like to say even a dollar helps. I was waiting on this. I have to be honest, I'm cynical, but that cynicism is based on environment. That's not just me. I tend to be somewhat trusting in and of itself but I almost have to bleed that out of me when stuff like this comes up, because I know these guys are political actors and they have very particular points of view and things that they want to accomplish. Morality, ethics, none of that stuff matters in this case. How do you win? In this very specific instance, Buttigieg got up and declared victory. Nobody thought Buttigieg won, and yet he declared victory. Now, I don't think there was malfeasance in the sense of Buttigieg and the company. What I think was Buttigieg is a bullshitter. And in Buttigieg being a bullshitter, he stands up and says, I won, to try to get some level of popularity from it. You could say, well, dude, that's kind of brazen. I mean, it would be pretty clear if he wins or loses. Yeah, but he said it first. And the question becomes, does media hit him for saying it first? Media didn't lay a glove on him when he put all those black folks on that pamphlet and sent it out as if he had their support. It's as if black folks are disposable in this case. It's not a big deal. They're just black folks. I mean, come on. This should have been a big fucking deal. He put out something that was an outright lie and sold that to the various media agencies. So do I believe that him declaring victory, jumping the gun on this, they're going to hit him? No. If he doesn't believe they're not going to hit him, what's the downside? That said, bullshitter Pete Buttigieg, I in no way thought Buttigieg won. And apparently, Buttigieg didn't win. By the time they were at 2%, Buttigieg was behind Sanders. And when Sanders showed his internal numbers with 40%, Buttigieg was still behind Sanders. And when they exposed the 60%, he's still behind Sanders. So, maybe they hit some district that's a Buttigieg encampment. Who knows? But right now, the lead, from the standpoint of the internal polling that Sanders has, is Sanders. Let's take a listen to Sanders himself. And by the way, do you honestly believe Sanders would release these results? If they were wrong, fraudulent, do you think Sanders is the type that will make up results? The catch here, though, is why? Why are you preempting the Democratic Party release of results? The Democratic Party said they were going to release by 5, I think. Sanders went after them, saying you need to be more transparent. It's beyond the pale that you're not transparent. Fact is, Sanders could have blown them out even more, meaning this dodgy shit that took place could have taken votes away from him. I hope you understand what I mean. This is not just Joe Biden looking at this saying, oh my God, this looks fucked up. It's me looking at this also saying he could have blown them out. Because of the way you've done this process, you've left a question mark over all of these results. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And it gives Joe Biden a certain degree of credence to kind of point out saying, whoa, I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's right. 11%, I don't know if that's right. It's right, Joe. Or 12%. It's right, Joe. You didn't have that support that you thought you had. And the media completely discrediting itself. What did they tell you? The media has been screaming about Sanders and Joe Biden, Sanders and Joe Biden, Sanders and Joe Biden. Joe Biden is coming back in Iowa. Joe Biden is coming back in Iowa. Joe Biden got crushed in Iowa. That means that the polling that these guys are putting out in Iowa, not so much. Now, I told you before, Iowa is difficult to poll because it's a caucus. And you get the second round vote tally. But fact is, Joe Biden was at 12% in the first round, meaning the first raw vote. He was fourth place. He was fourth place. That's brutal. He was already hurt for cash. He had already found his ceiling. And that's the funny part. They kept saying Bernie Sanders has a ceiling. Bernie Sanders had a ceiling. Apparently not. Joe Biden has a ceiling. And not just as a ceiling, he is falling, even from the standpoint of that ceiling. Let's hear Sanders and Weaver explain how he sees all of this.
Let me just say this. I want to take this opportunity as we leave Iowa and New Hampshire to thank the thousands and thousands of volunteers who helped us knock on hundreds of thousands of doors in the state of Iowa, which I think resulted in the very positive results that we received last night. Obviously, I am disappointed. I suspect I can speak for all the candidates, all of their supporters, and the people of Iowa, that the Iowa Democratic Party has not been able to come up with timely election results. Can't understand why that happens, but it has happened. And I want to just introduce Jeff Weaver, who has some information on the election results. Jeff?
Hello, everybody. We have, in the interest of transparency, I know there's a tremendous amount of interest in the results, even though there's been no official tallies yet. Based on self-reported totals from precinct captains across a representative sample of...
And by the way, for all of those people who always ask me, it's like, dude, he needs to say something about election interference. He needs to say something about cheating, et cetera, et cetera. Just because he doesn't say anything doesn't necessarily mean he's not thinking about it. Why do you think he's preempting the DNC's numbers? Why? He's preempting the DNC's numbers because he wants those numbers out first as a standard. People tend to believe the first thing they hear, or at the very least when people accept the first thing they hear or accept the piece of information, the secondary piece of information is harder to get in. Meaning you're better off preempting it as opposed to kind of letting it impose itself and then you show your numbers. The DNC's numbers, the official numbers, Sanders comes back and shows his numbers and people are like, whoa, your numbers don't match. Now, the moment that Sanders shows his numbers, people, to some degree, accept Sanders as being a credible, honest actor, and in putting those numbers out, figure he's not trying to game the system or anything. This is the numbers that he's working on. Now, the DNC, at some point, is going to put out their numbers, but they're only putting out 50%, meaning Sanders put out more numbers than what the DNC was going to put out. So his numbers, even still, may be more accurate because there's more voluminous content. My point is, he's setting the narrative himself. He's not waiting for a narrative to be imposed upon him. Let's look at politics. Let me finish.
Iowa precincts, accounting for 60% of the anticipated precincts. The results that we have currently are in the first round total, Senator Sanders with 29.08, Mayor Buttigieg with 21.63, Senator Warren with 19.51, Senator Klobuchar with 12.27, and Vice President Biden at 12.04. Post-realignment, those numbers are Senator Sanders 29.4, Mayor Buttigieg 24.87, Senator Warren 20.65, Vice President Biden 12.92, and Senator Klobuchar 11.18. Again, these the spreads in these results have been pretty consistent all through the night. By the time we had about 15% in, these results have held across all the reporting. So we anticipate that this will hold probably till the end of the process.
Simply declaring as what Jeff just spoke, based on the information we received from precinct captains, with 60% of the voting for Klobuchar.
What's your reaction, sir, to Mayor Buttigieg last night tonight?
That's what Jeff just spoke, based on the information we received from precinct captains, with 60% of the voting for Klobuchar.
What's your reaction, sir, to Mayor Buttigieg last night tonight?
I don't know how anybody declares victory if we have official statements of election results, so we're not declaring victory. But what we are saying is that at a time when the people of Iowa and the people of America really want to know what the results is, they want to see some transparency, and when the Iowa Democratic Party is not providing that in a timely manner, we thought it was inappropriate just to give the results that have come in from our precinct.
Senator, what's your reaction?
I'm going to put Ryan's grim video at the bottom so you can see it for yourself. But my take on this is a man that don't know if they're going to try to take it from him. That's what, he's preempting results. He could have just waited until the DNC gave his results. He didn't do that. He puts out 60%, meaning whatever the DNC is putting out, he's putting out 10% more than what they've put out. So whatever numbers they come up with and everything else, at the most part, you could still look at Sanders like, well, he's giving out more data. He's trying to be more transparent. These are the numbers that he has at his disposal. Why can't the DNC do that? That's basically what he's asking. He keeps saying it over and over again. I don't know why the Iowa Democratic Party couldn't be transparent. I don't know why they can't be transparent. I don't know why there's this problem. People want to know who won. It's the same thing. He's not saying they rigged it. He's just looking at this with this notion of, why can't they be transparent? Well, what does it mean when you can't be transparent? You're being opaque. You're hiding. You're keeping information. That's not necessarily a positive thing in an electoral process where you want to know who won and you want to know they're not gaming the system. You game the system in opaque circumstances. He doesn't have to say they're rigging it for him to kind of allude to it in the way that he's using his language, or at the very least create the impression in other people's mind that there's a problem with this particular process. By the same token, it creates a problem for him, because if he's going to win that process, then somebody like Joe Biden says, I agree with you. That looks a little dodgy, so I don't want to accept the results. But as Sanders goes on in this, he makes the point that says, look, there were paper ballots. They kept track of all this stuff. I don't have any reason to doubt the results. But I'm sorry, in this, he's alluding to this looks a little dodgy. Nevertheless, he's giving us numbers. That's more than you can say for the Democratic Party, who has not given you numbers at all, despite having those numbers. And I got to be honest, I don't care if Joe Biden protests about the numbers on this point. This is kind of like the Des Moines registry poll, where it comes out, Buttigieg bitches and complains because he's not listed in one of the questions, and he scrapped the entire poll. Lo and behold, in that poll, it's what we expected. Sanders doing extremely well. Biden, not so much. Not so much. And now you have a actual election where it seems like they know the answer. They're withholding it. And to some degree, you realize this takes the sting or the victory out of the win. Like, this should have been a triumphant night for Sanders, walking out, holding it up, give his campaign speech with a ton of momentum to New Hampshire. But instead, what did they do? We're going to give out 50%. Why? Because at some point, the public's attention starts to dwindle away. And are they going to keep going back to the same election over and over again? And does it not sap the strength out of the campaign that won? Would they have done this if Biden won? And do you know the answer is a flat fact? And should that bother you that you don't know the answer as a flat fact? Time for some moderation, Jamal. Time for some moderation. Extreme checker. That coin flip, though, is how it went last time. The coin flip is weird. Like, that coin flip is really bizarre. It looks like you have votes. This guy has more than you. All right. Take the delegate. It's so weird. I don't get it either. I don't quite get it. All right. I'll leave it here. Like, share, subscribe. You guys at this point know what I know. I trust Sanders on this. I don't think he'd flagrantly lie like some other campaigns. So if he's putting out these numbers, I think he's putting them out with a relative certainty that at the very least they're close or dead on. And yeah, he still has a 5-point spread over Buttigieg. So I assume he would win. I mean, to me, the biggest question was how much is he going to win? And my concern was that other people may lump into the other campaigns, but that turned out not to necessarily be a big thing, at least not to the point where it undermines Sanders. And oddly enough, again, the people who are supporting Biden, their second choice is Sanders. I mean, that's what money costs. So that's a national poll. I don't know if that necessarily holds true for Iowa, but extreme checker. He flipped the coin till it was heads, bro. Are you serious? Are you serious? God, man. I was watching people online. They were like, yeah, you've made me burn your bus. Like this fuckery. This fuckery makes me burn your bus. Like, share, subscribe. And again, Bernie supporters, you should be happy Buttigieg takes second spot. Be proud of that. That's the greatest outcome. With the exception of Warren, unless outside of you blowing everyone away, Buttigieg taking the second spot is the greatest outcome. Buttigieg is not going to make it to Georgia. He's not going to make it to South Carolina. And when he gets into these states with people of color, oh God, he's going to get blown away. New Hampshire and Iowa. Those are his only two states. Those are the two whitest states in the country. Those are his only states. Everywhere else is hostile territory. I don't know what magic dust. I don't know what fairy dust. I don't know what he thinks he's going to use to get him from point A to point B. But stay in the race, bro. As long as you're taking those slots that Warren and Biden desperately need, good for you. Good for you. But he's going to fall apart in South Carolina and going forward. That's my prognostication. I could be entirely wrong. I'm not saying this with absolute certainty, but I still don't buy that Buttigieg is a thing. And I don't buy it until he's getting at least 10% from the African-American contingent. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.